There is a kind of wound that leaves no cut on the skin, yet quietly eats away at you from within. It is betrayal, not by strangers, but by someone you once called close, a best friend, a lover, a smiling colleague. And then one day they turn away, silent, indifferent, or worse, they stab you in the back at the very moment you least expect it. What makes betrayal so painful isn't just the act, it's the shock. You once believed you were loved and respected. You trusted the relationship. You never saw it coming, and when it arrived, you didn't understand why. But what if I told you the signs were always there, and you can learn to see them before it's too late? Carl Jung, the great master of analytical psychology, dedicated his life to studying the unconscious layers of the human mind. He believed that betrayal is not a random behavior. It is the result of unresolved inner conflict, of the shadow, the part of the psyche that people try hardest to hide. And when that shadow is triggered, it can give rise to envy, manipulation, hostility, and eventually betrayal. This piece is not meant to make you paranoid, but to make you clear-eyed, because even the kindest souls can fall victim if they don't understand how the human psyche operates. And sometimes your sincerity, your success, your light, it is exactly what someone else can't bear to witness. Let us now enter a journey into the unconscious scripts behind betrayal, so that you can not only heal, but also learn how to protect yourself in a world full of wounds, but also full of awakenings. Number 1, the shadow and hidden resentment. When your light exposes the darkness in others, some betrayals don't begin with clear actions, but with a shift in a glance, a congratulations that no longer feels sincere, or a silent distance quietly forming between two people who once felt close. These may seem harmless, but they are often the earliest signs of a psychological undercurrent, the rising of the shadow in someone's inner world. According to Carl Jung, the shadow self is the dark aspect that exists within every human being, a collection of emotions, thoughts, and desires that we suppress because they don't fit the ideal image we want to present. But here's the danger. The shadow doesn't disappear simply because we deny it. It remains silently. And once triggered, especially by the light of another person, it can morph into resentment, envy, insecurity, and eventually betrayal. Imagine you have a close friend. They've always cheered you on and supported every step forward. But one day you begin to achieve arthoam in your career, your health, your relationships. You're not bragging, just living your path. But from their side, something shifts. Their praise feels forced. They start drifting. Their words carry strange undertones. You've changed. Maybe we're not on the same wavelength anymore. You feel confused because you've done nothing wrong. But in truth, you've unknowingly touched their shadow. Your success becomes a mirror reflecting the parts of yourself you haven't faced. Feelings of inadequacy, inferiority, and failure. Unable to handle those emotions, their defense mechanisms kick in, building an unconscious script to justify their withdrawal, and sometimes their betrayal. Jung once said, "No one becomes enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." But few have the courage to do so. Instead, they project their shadow onto others, turning you into the reason for their pain. You are no longer their friend. You are a reminder that they feel left behind. And that's when betrayal quietly begins. The sad truth is they don't hate you. They hate that you force them to confront the part of themselves they're trying to avoid. You're not the villain, but you become the collateral damage in a battle they cannot win. The distance, the gossip, the stabbing in the back, they didn't come because you changed. They came because your light made it impossible for them to keep hiding from their own shadow. So how do you protect yourself? Learn to observe the subtle shifts in energy between you and others. Don't just listen to words, feel the emotions beneath them. If once kind eyes now grow cold, if support becomes silent, or a subtle comparison, be cautious, not fearful, but boundaries. Not everyone can stand beside you when you step into the full radiance of your light, but that's not your fault. Remember, the light never apologizes for shining. And betrayal doesn't happen because you're wrong. It happens because your light reveals a darkness they weren't ready to face. Number 2, the manipulative mask. When betrayal is a calculated plan. Not all betrayals stem from unconscious inner conflict. Some are planned, disguised behind a perfect mask of care, understanding, and support. This is the kind of betrayal that hurts the most, not because of the wound it causes, but because it was planted where trust once lived. Carl Jung described these people as living through a false persona, a socially adapted self-image that hides their true nature. They know what to say, they know when to appear and when to vanish. They know how to make you think, this is the most trustworthy person in my life. But every mask eventually falls. And when it does, it hurts most because you gave your trust away completely. Picture someone who's always there when you need them, listening to your worries, comforting your heartbreaks, cheering every small success. You feel grateful and start to believe they're the one constant in your life. But one day when you can no longer give them what they want, time, money, access, attention, they disappear, or worse, they turn on you, spread rumors, reveal secrets you once entrusted to them. The problem isn't just what they did, it's the coldness behind it. These people don't betray because they're hurt. They betray you because you're no longer useful. To them, you're not a person, you're a source. And once your value runs out, you're discarded like a spent object. Jung believed that this type of person doesn't operate from emotion, but from a need for control and gain. They may stand beside you in your darkest hours, not out of love, but because vulnerability is easier to exploit. They don't betray you because you failed them. They betray you because it's a logical move in their silent game. How do you recognize them? Observe. Are they only around when you have something to offer? Do they shift when you say no? When you struggle, do they vanish? When you succeed, do they use your success to boost their image instead of celebrating with you? That's when you must understand. They were never with you. They were near what you represented. You can't prevent this kind of betrayal, but you can stop offering unconditional trust. Don't listen to words. Watch what they do when you have nothing to give. The ones who love you don't disappear when you fall. Those who wear masks always turn away the moment you stop being convenient. 3. Silent envy. When they don't hate you, they just hate not being you. Among the hidden roots of betrayal, envy is the quietest, yet perhaps the most dangerous of all. It's not loud like anger, not direct like hatred, but it simmers in glances, in jokes, and ultimately in a coldness that leaves you stunned. Carl Jung believed envy is not merely the desire for what someone else has. At its core, it's dissatisfaction with oneself. When someone sees you achieving something they never dared to dream of, living a life they haven't had the courage to pursue, your light becomes a silent reminder of the limits they've imposed on themselves. And instead of facing it, they grow resentful. Silent envy doesn't show up right away. It starts with congratulations that feel slightly strained. Then come the jokes wrapped in sarcasm. Well, someone's famous now, huh? Always busy these days. Forgot your old friends already? Beneath the humor lies a subtle shrinking of connection. You begin to sense that they no longer celebrate you the same way. And then come the more hurtful shifts. They no longer support you publicly. They're absent during your milestones. They start to make veiled comments behind your back. Probably has someone pulling strings. Must be lucky to get ahead like that. Their words no longer carry belief, but instead become tools to pull you down so they can breathe easier around themselves. What makes silent envy so toxic? It leads you to doubt yourself because they were once someone you loved. You wonder, what did I do wrong? But the truth is, you did nothing wrong. You're just living well. And for some, that alone is intolerable. So how do you recognize it? Listen for compliments with thorns. Watch their response when you share the good news. Those who truly care will celebrate as if your success were their own. But those who envy you, even if they smile, their eyes won't lie. Betrayal rooted in silent envy isn't always explosive, but the quiet withdrawal, the shifting energy, the ambiguous comments whispered behind your back, all signal one thing: you are no longer seen through the same loving eyes. And one day you realize they don't hate you, They just hate the feeling of being left behind the moment you began to rise. 4. The power play. When betrayal is about reclaiming control, not all betrayals stem from jealousy or emotional wounds. Some betrayals arise simply because you've become too independent, too strong, and that strength makes someone feel like they've lost control over you. Carl Jung once pointed out that in every relationship, there exists an invisible hierarchy of power. Even if we don't want to admit it, one person plays the protector, the advisor, and the helper. The other plays the one in need, the learner, the follower. Everything feels fine until you disrupt the roles, when you start voicing your own opinions, when you establish boundaries, when others begin to respect you, or simply when you no longer rely on their guidance. The unspoken power structure is shaken, and some people cannot handle that. What's their natural reaction? They won't come out and say, "I feel like I've lost control of you." Instead, they manipulate emotions. They make you feel guilty for changing. They use silence as punishment. They begin spinning narratives to pull others to their side. And finally, they betray. Not because you've done something wrong, but because they no longer feel superior. A classic example is the relationship between a boss and an employee. You begin to excel, your work is recognized by higher-ups. Suddenly, your boss becomes critical, stops supporting you, maybe even sabotages your projects. They don't hate you. They feel threatened by your growth. Or in a friendship, you become more self-reliant, build new connections. We no longer need them to fill emotional gaps. They start making subtle jabs, saying you've become cold, that you've forgotten who was there for you, or they provoke small conflicts to make you feel guilty. Carl Jung noted that when someone builds their self-worth on being needed, they react strongly when you become self-sufficient. In their eyes, your maturity is their failure, and to reclaim their old position, they won't hesitate to betray. Be cautious of those who support you when you're weak, but abandon you when you become strong. They don't truly love you. They loved your lower position beneath them. 5. Shadow projection. When you become the mirror, they can't face of all the forms betrayal can take. Shadow projection may be the most subtle and the hardest to grasp. It's not driven by strategy and not entirely by envy either, but by a subconscious defense mechanism. I can't face the darkness in myself, so I'll see it in you. Carl Jung called this projection. When a person assigns traits they reject in themselves onto someone else, they don't realize they're doing it. But when they see you, something in them is deeply disturbed. Not because of anything wrong you've done, but because you've accidentally reminded them of the part of themselves they've buried. You live truthfully. They call you fake. You succeed through hard work. They say your luck is suspicious. You live with discipline. They label you rigid and controlling. None of this reflects who you truly are. It reflects what they cannot stand within themselves. Imagine someone who constantly gossips behind others' backs. One day they accuse you of talking behind their back, even when you haven't. Not because they misunderstand, but because they're projecting their own actions onto you. They can't accept that they were the one who gossips, so they must see it in someone else to soothe their ego. I'm not that bad, everyone's like this. Or in romantic love, someone who's been unfaithful becomes obsessed with checking your phone, constantly doubting your loyalty. That's a projection. They don't trust you because they themselves are not trustworthy, and instead of facing their inner shame, they betray first to avoid feeling inferior. You'll feel confused because the accusations are completely unfounded. But remember Jung's words, what you hate in others is often what you haven't accepted in yourself. And the reverse is also true. When someone overreacts to you without a clear reason, it's likely that you've become the mirror reflecting the darkness they cannot face. How do you protect yourself? Don't explain, don't justify. You can't heal someone who's still denying their truth. Step back, hold your boundaries. And know this, you are not the problem, you're just the mirror. And what they see reflected is something they can no longer suppress. 6. Narcissistic betrayal. When you're just a pawn in their game, there's a kind of betrayal that doesn't just break your heart. It shatters your sense of self. It's the moment you realize the person you thought truly cared may have never really seen you at all. To them, you were never a whole person, just a tool to serve their needs. This is the betrayal that comes from narcissism. Carl Jung once warned of those who live inside an inflated ego. People who need to be admired, desired, and prioritized outweighs their capacity for real love. Modern psychology calls them narcissistic. And to them, betrayal isn't emotional, it's strategic. You may have met someone like this. They enter your life like a miracle. They praise you, lift you up, make you feel like you're special. And once you trust them, once you share your time, your energy, your sacrifices, the signs begin to show. They only show up when they need something. They disappear when you're struggling. They go cold the moment you no longer serve a purpose. Worse yet, when the relationship ends, there's no remorse, no sadness. They simply walk away and find a new supply. To them, you weren't someone they loved. You were a stepping stone, a backdrop to make their ego shine. And when you were no longer useful, they didn't hesitate to betray, to smear your name, or to forget you completely. What hurts most is not just the betrayal, it's the dehumanization. You can't fathom how someone could be so heartless. But the truth is, they never truly saw you. They only saw the reflection of themselves through you. Jung believed that such people don't connect through the heart, they connect through the ego. Every relationship to them is an invisible transaction. If loyalty benefits them, they're loyal. If betrayal serves them better, they betray. No emotion, no hesitation. How can you recognize them? They often seem incredibly charming at first, making you feel chosen and exceptional. They lavish praise, make grand promises, then gradually control your emotions through indifference, silence, or subtle blame. And when things fall apart, they always paint themselves as the victim and you as the one who failed to be good enough. With these people, the kinder you are, the more they exploit it. But don't let your goodness become your weakness. Learn to walk away when you realize you're always giving, but never receiving. Learn to step back when you feel like you only exist to serve someone else's spotlight. And never forget, a narcissist may make you doubt your worth, but the truth is they're the ones incapable of seeing the true worth of another human being. Narcissistic betrayal doesn't mean you weren't enough. It means you were so radiant, they mistook your light for something that belonged to them. Maybe all of us, at some point, have been wounded by someone we once called close. But beyond the pain, what you must remember is this: it's not about who betrayed you. It's about what that betrayal reveals about them and what it teaches you about yourself. Carl Jung once said, "You don't become whole by avoiding the darkness, but by learning to understand it." And every betrayal is a form of darkness, but instead of letting it destroy your trust, let it become a mirror, reflecting the truth of who they are, and a reminder that your worth is not defined by how others treat you. Some betrayals come from wounds. Forgive. Some betrayals come from the calculation, withdrawal. Some come from envy and manipulation. Set boundaries. But in all cases, don't let their actions define your identity. You are still someone who can love, who can trust, who can choose wisely. But this time, you will walk into that choice with open eyes, a steadier heart, and deeper self-respect. Because in the end, betrayal doesn't end you. It ends an illusion. And that is liberation. Move forward without bitterness, but with no more naivety. Become the kind of person that even betrayal cannot break, because you've learned the ultimate truth. Real light is when you understand darkness and still don't lose yourself.